Hello everybody, I'm back, and today our video is going to be on College Football 25 and our Road to Glory series. Now some of you may know that I used to upload my kicking highlights to this channel. It's how I got a majority of my views, and in this Road to Glory we're going to be doing a 2-star quarterback, and all this footage was also on my Twitch, so feel free to go to the Twitch. Probably down in the description, Twitch TV/Fallman10, and who knows, you could be in the chat. I like to talk to my viewers, but let's get right into it. If you do enjoy this video, please feel free to like the video and subscribe. I'll be trying to upload more often, and I'll have to interrupt the video here to tell you some news that I just recently come across. I've also noticed recently, since I don't look at my channel very often, and now I'm looking at it more often now, I've hit 100 subscribers. Thank you very much. And before we begin, let me tell you the story of our character. The state of Colorado is where our journey begins. In the years since 2000, only 4 5-star recruits have come out of Colorado, the most recent being in 2007 with Ryan Miller from Columbine. Now, the majority of the top recruits from Colorado, that includes 4-star Christian McCaffrey and 4-star Calais Campbell, they've mainly come from the northern side of Colorado, aka the Denver region. And so, our hero, our protagonist here, did not have many recruits looking on him since he was from the southern Colorado portion of the state. Now, there would be the occasional 4-star or high 3-star that came out of Colorado, but as we know, he was not very highly recruited. He was actually mainly a kicker, but then the starting quarterback graduated, and so he decided to take up the mantle of quarterback, and so he was kicking both PATs and field goals while also throwing the football. And because he only started as a senior, he did not get much attention. And the fact that he was only 5'10" at the end of his senior year did not help. But despite his small size, he was actually a pretty decent runner, and he would often go for long run plays, though his accuracy did need to be touched on a little bit. He knew what he wanted. He wanted to play for a team that would let him start right away at quarterback, because he figured out that he loved playing quarterback. His last 2 interests were basically only there for when he enters the transfer portal, because as a 2-star recruit he won't have high schools looking at him, and so he wanted a school that when he enters the transfer portal would be a championship contender and also was a pro potential school. Well, although his dreams of playing immediately were quickly crushed, he did find out that Kennesaw State would give him the easiest chance to become a starter early, and so we committed to Kennesaw State. So, while we're only within 3 overalls of the starting quarterback, that meant we had to get to work. We had to do whatever we could to get to that starting role almost immediately. We almost instantly got a position battle for the QB2 spot, so we would have to win 2 out of 3 mini games in order to become the QB2. And our first mini game was the pass skeleton. We needed about 2,000 points in order to beat the backup, and we got about over 5,000, so that was pretty easy there. Minigame number 2 was the option attack. Now we needed 16,000 points in order to beat the backup, and I've actually played this minigame quite a bit before I started on this series, and it gets incredibly easy. It's an incredibly easy game mode, and you could pretty much do it and get a touchdown every time. And so it was safe to say that we crushed this game mode. we got 50,000 points, over 50,000 points, and the gold medal. And so we've already won the QB battle, but if we want to gain more coach trust, we're going to need to win the third minigame. The final minigame was the Scramble Survive. You could not throw immediately, and it's probably best to go through the hot spots that give 500 points each, because you have to stay alive before you can actually throw the football, and then hopefully you can get a touchdown once you're able to throw the football. We needed 10,000 points in order to beat the backup, and I usually used to have trouble with this game mode, but this time we actually did pretty well, despite throwing an interception on the last play. But we ended up winning the third minigame, and now we have 1,500 coach trust and a QB battle won. Now I looked at the coach trust meter that next week, and I realized that I was already ahead of the QB1, but they wouldn't let me get a position battle for week 1. I guess today has to have like a week cooldown, and so I just did my weekly agenda, did practice and all that, and basically just watched game 1. We ended up taking the loss there, but we actually do now have a position battle for QB1. So we got the same 3 mini games again, and I'm just gonna keep it simple for you. We won not just 1 mini game, not just 2 mini games, but all 3. Meaning we got the 1,500 coach trust again, and we are going to be QB1 for week 2. Now, our first game of our collegiate career as a true freshman was against the University of Louisiana Raging Cajuns, who were already 1-0 on the year. In our first drive, I found out something that was going to be quite apparent this time around. Was that Kennesaw State was definitely a pro-style or run-heavy offense. So after 2 run plays that didn't really go anywhere, I threw my first collegiate pass, which was a curl route, and it was incomplete. And so our first drive, kind of an L. We went down 7-0, and in our next drive we had a couple of good plays, including my first collegiate completion, but we didn't go anywhere either, and so we are quickly down 14-zip. After a very slow quarter and a half, I actually got my first career collegiate touchdown, and it was a rushing touchdown near the goal line. So now it was a 14-7 game. We'll skip ahead to the start of the 4th quarter as we were down by 10. It's a 17-7 game, and this drive starts in a rough place. We're down at our own 2-yard line. We actually got to 3rd down quite quickly, but we ended up getting a completion on the sidelines to get some breathing room and get a 1st down. And eventually we drove down the field, taking a lot of time off the clock, but we ended up going all the way for a touchdown. We get the ball back shortly after that. With about 4 minutes on the clock, we were down by 3 at our own 20-yard line. A field goal would tie it, and a touchdown, if we chewed the clock in the right way, would win the game. We had a few ups and downs here and there, a few 3rd downs that we needed to make, but eventually the 2-minute warning hit, and now we really had to get going. And eventually we made it all the way down the field, and with 191 passing yards at the time and 1 rushing touchdown, I rushed all the way for my second rushing touchdown, which ended up sealing the victory for Kennesaw State, and we are now 1-1 on the year. Next would be against the 2-0 San Jose State Spartans, and we would get the ball, and when we got the ball, we went all the way to score first with a touchdown on a jet touch pass. The Spartans would end up scoring 13 straight, and with only about 20 seconds left in the first half, I'd end up throwing an interception on the goal line, which means we would not take the lead or even come within 3. On the opening drive of the second half, we ended up getting a field goal to become within 3, and then on a 2nd and 11 later in the quarter, we ended up getting a big play to get really close to even taking the lead. We'd only end up getting 3 on that drive, which would tie up the game, so it wasn't all bad. We'd get the ball back eventually later, and then we had a big play for a touchdown, which would give us a lead. They'd end up scoring a touchdown to tie up the game again, but we'd get a field goal, but then they'd get a field goal back, and we'd get the ball with less than 2 minutes left. We just needed a field goal to win the game. We would end up driving all the way down to within field goal range. San Jose State used up all of their timeouts, and so we just needed to kick the field goal. But what I think happened was that since the computer doesn't really call timeouts when you're in sim mode, that it didn't call a timeout and the clock ran out and we just did not kick the field goal. And so that means that despite how unnecessary it was, we would have to go to overtime. We'd end up getting the ball to start overtime, and on a 3rd and 16, we threw a deep ball for a touchdown. San Jose would end up scoring a touchdown and another touchdown in a 2-point conversion, but we ended up throwing another touchdown deep on one of the first plays, but on the 2-point conversion, we ended up failing, and San Jose State ends up winning the football game. I haven't told you much about our weekly agendas and everything, but I've basically been trying to keep tabs on everything. We got a text from Delaney, and we skipped a lab and went to a party, which increased our brand, but you'll find out later that it didn't quite work out in our favor. And we also studied a lot for an upcoming big test, which hopefully meant our grades went up quite a bit. I'd ended up simulating practice and doing the weekly agenda for our bye week, and that's pretty much where I'll ended up here after a heartbreaker, but we became the starter and we're up on the up and up.